There's a town in the Nevada desert where million-dollar dreams rose almost overnight and collapsed just as fast.
A place where bank vaults still stand in the open air, where broken stone walls mark the remains of a once booming city, and where the desert wind now moves through empty streets that were once packed with investors, miners, and people convinced they were standing at the center of America's next great fortune.
That place is Rhyolite Ghost Town in Nevada, USA. Located in the state of Nevada on the western side of the United States, part of the continent of North America, Rhyolite sits near the edge of Death Valley National Park, surrounded by one of the harshest landscapes in the country. Today, it feels isolated and forgotten, but in the early 1900s, this place was considered one of the hottest investment opportunities in the American West. And like many stories built on sudden wealth, it began with gold. The year was 1904. Prospectors searching through the Bullfrog Hills discovered rich gold-bearing quartz in the Nevada desert. News of the discovery spread fast, very fast. This was during the final wave of the Great American Gold Rush era, a time when even rumors of gold could move people across entire states. And this wasn't just rumor. The ore samples coming out of the Bullfrog mining district were incredibly rich. Reports claimed enormous values per ton, enough to trigger immediate investor confidence. In a matter of months, mining companies formed, land values exploded, and people began flooding into the region. That was the birth of Rhyolite. Unlike many rough-and-ready mining camps that slowly evolved into towns, Rhyolite was ambitious from day one. It wasn't built as a temporary settlement. It was designed to become a major city, a desert financial hub, powered by gold. And for a moment, that vision looked real. By 1905, development scaled rapidly. Streets were planned, permanent structures went up fast, investors poured in capital. This wasn't tents and wooden shacks thrown together overnight. This was infrastructure. Rhyolite quickly gained electric lights, water mains, concrete sidewalks, telephones, and rail service from multiple railroad companies. Think about that for a second. In the middle of the Nevada desert, during the early 20th century, a brand new town suddenly had modern utilities that many older American towns still lacked. That level of investment signaled one thing. People believed Rhyolite would last. Banks opened, hotels expanded, a school was built. There was an opera house, a hospital, a stock exchange, stores, saloons, and newspaper offices. Brick and stone replaced temporary lumber because nobody expected this place to disappear. At its peak, between 1907 and 1908, the population reached somewhere between 5,000 and 8,000 people. That made Rhyolite one of Nevada's fastest-growing towns. Money moved aggressively here. Deals happened constantly. Mining shares changed hands at speed. Business owners competed for space. New construction happened almost non-stop. It was a startup city, operating at full growth velocity. And then, almost immediately, the market shifted. The problem was simple. The hype scaled faster than the mines could deliver. While early ore samples were promising, many mining operations failed to maintain the levels of production investors expected. Some veins weren't as rich as first believed. Others became too expensive to extract profitably. Confidence started slipping. Then came the financial panic of 1907, one of the worst economic crises in American history before the Great Depression. Banks across the country tightened lending. Investment capital dried up. Speculative mining towns like Rhyolite were hit especially hard. Suddenly, cash flow stopped. And without outside money, Rhyolite's momentum collapsed. Businesses closed, construction projects halted, investors vanished, families began leaving. Within just a few years, one of the West's most promising boomtowns entered rapid decline. This is what makes Rhyolite's story so fascinating. Its rise was explosive. Its collapse was surgical. There was no dramatic fire, no flood, no war, no single disaster destroying the town. It simply ran out of belief. And once enough people stopped believing in its future, the entire system unraveled.
By 1910, the population had dropped sharply. By 1916, electricity was shut off. By 1920, Rhyolite was effectively dead. Think about that timeline.
A city built with enormous ambition, modern infrastructure, and financial confidence had risen and fallen in less than 2 decades. That speed feels almost impossible, and yet the ruins still prove it happened. Today, when people visit Rhyolite Ghost Town, what stands out immediately is the scale of what remains. You don't see random abandoned cabins. You see serious architecture. The old Cook Bank building still stands as one of the most iconic ruins in Nevada. Massive stone walls remain upright, with empty window frames opening into desert sky. It feels less like an abandoned building and more like the skeleton of confidence itself.
Nearby sits the remains of the train depot, the school, and fragments of homes and commercial buildings that once represented expansion and permanence. Then there's one of the strangest landmarks of all, the famous Bottle House.
Built in 1906 by Tom Kelly, it was constructed using over 50,000 glass bottles because traditional building materials were expensive and hard to source in the desert. Bottles were everywhere thanks to local saloons, so Kelly turned waste into architecture. That building still stands today. And in many ways, it represents Rhyolite perfectly. Creative, ambitious, improvised, and slightly absurd. The surrounding desert only amplifies the atmosphere. Nevada's harsh landscape doesn't soften abandoned places, it exposes them. The sun strips color away. The wind erodes edges. Heat creates shimmering distortions that make ruins feel almost unreal from a distance. Walking through Rhyolite feels like stepping into a financial illusion that became physical. Everything about it says success was expected here, and everything around it proves success never arrived long enough to stay.
There's also a psychological tension built into ghost towns like this. Unlike ancient ruins, these buildings are modern enough to feel familiar. You recognize their purpose immediately: bank, school, station, house. That familiarity makes the emptiness more unsettling. It forces you to imagine daily life here. Children heading to school. Investors rushing between offices. Train whistles arriving with new residents full of expectation. Conversations about the future. Plans being made. Promises being believed. And then, silence. That shift from certainty to absence is what lingers. Rhyolite also reflects a larger truth about American expansion during the early 20th century. Much of the West was built on speculative confidence. Entire communities rose because people believed resources would create permanent prosperity. Sometimes they were right, sometimes they weren't. Rhyolite became one of the clearest examples of what happens when infrastructure outruns reality. It scaled beautifully. It failed completely. And unlike many failures, it never got a second act. Today, the town attracts photographers, historians, filmmakers, and travelers looking for something more haunting than typical tourist attractions. Its location near Death Valley adds to the surreal effect. You can stand among the ruins while looking out toward one of the hottest environments on Earth, feeling the desert air move through spaces built for human permanence. And in that moment, the lesson becomes obvious. Rhyolite wasn't destroyed by nature. It wasn't erased by violence. It collapsed because expectations exceeded substance. The dream was larger than the foundation holding it up. And when belief disappeared, everything built on top of it disappeared too. That's why Rhyolite still matters, because it's not just a ghost town. It's a warning written in stone. A reminder that rapid growth means nothing without durability. That hype can build cities, but only truth can keep them alive. And as the Nevada wind moves through empty bank windows and broken walls under the western sun, one reality becomes impossible to ignore. Some towns die because disaster strikes. Rhyolite died because the future people imagined for it never arrived.